SDPB shares the voices and experiences of South Dakotans, preserving our stories, our culture, and our sense of place. SDPB, good, useful, and full of wonder. As South Dakota's public media network, SDPB serves everyone with transparency, integrity, and commitment to open access. Good, useful, and full of wonder. SDPB.
All right, everyone, we're going to get started here. 1 minute. Maybe. Okay.
Recording in progress.
Sure. And welcome back, everyone. Day 2 of our May 2026 Game Fish and Parks Commission meeting. Thanks for the great conversations and work we did yesterday. We'll wrap things up with a handful of items. The first one we will jump into is number 5. This was one of our finalizations that we held over until today, and I know Director Kirschman will come up and share some of the work that he and the team did yesterday afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Commissioners and Secretary Roebling. Tom Kirschman, Director, Wildlife Division. I believe you all have a handout or a printout at your seats in respect to the administrative action sheet for the deer hunting season license types. Appreciate the conversations yesterday, the dialogue going back and forth, and some of the questions that you all shared with us, and hopefully we were able to address your questions yesterday as we move through the step of finalizing licenses for the East River and West River deer seasons. So the handout you have in front of you is actually 5 pages in total. The first page there talks about the different seasons and the license types. We talked about that yesterday and addressed that. The next 2 pages are in respect to the 2026 East River deer season. Andrew covered those yesterday, some of the license changes that we are making there. Most of those are focusing in on that southeast part of the state as well. Again, these are for the actual East River deer season. I think we addressed all the questions and concerns around that. You also took action yesterday on the different seasons, which were the youth and mentor and apprentice seasons. That action was taken care of yesterday, so no further action there today that's necessary. So then the last 2 pages are in respect to the West River deer season. That's where we had more of our conversations and some of the discussion as Andy and Byron went through the big presentation for you. Now you can see there on page number 4, I guess it would be, lists all the individual units with the various license types based on our conversation yesterday, excuse me, and some additional visits with our staff last night. You can see we have one additional change on here that was not included in your original sheet yesterday, and that is for Unit 49B. Based on our conversations yesterday, we went back and through our visits, we are going to recommend to change. We additionally had 700 licenses under the first column, which was the 01 license type, any deer. You'll see that it is highlighted in yellow, but it is now blank. That is because we are switching those over to the next column, which would be a 02, which would be an any buck license instead of an any deer. And then there's a column which is the any whitetail with license type 11. You'll see that highlighted in yellow and it's blank. There were 100 licenses there. We removed those as well based on our conversations. So the other 2 lines, 49A and 53C, those changes we did talk about yesterday. Andrew went through the primary changes that we did there. We did away with the 2 tag license types, which were under column 18. And then there was also the 2 antlerless whitetail. And the 2 tag licenses were converted to 1 tag licenses under the column of 11. So those were getting rid of additional doe tags that were part of the 2 tag and made those 1 tag to further reduce potential harvest of does. So those 3 units have the changes based on our conversations. And so Madam Chair and Commissioners, I will turn it over to you based on those changes, if those fit some of the desired discussions and the questions and concerns that exist. I guess your next step would be then to go back to your motion that you had yesterday, whether you amend it or completely rescind that and then just start over with a new motion based on the license types that are here. And your motion would be for your total package in front of you. So for the West River deer, East River seasons, and then those license types on the first page. So Madam Chair, I'll turn it over to you and let you go through your process, and I will sure answer any questions that you may have.
Very good. Thank you. Questions, comments from the Commission? Commissioner Cole.
So I think it'd be proper
order, correct me here if I'm wrong, but I would like to make a motion that I think just takes a simple majority to bring our table motion back off the table.
To rescind it?
Yes, but I think we have to do it in 2 steps, but.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
So
We-
I'll move to bring the Chuck's motion off the table back to the floor.
We do need a second for that. Seconded by Commissioner Spring. Any comments on that? Seeing none, the motion is to bring yesterday's motion back off the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So it is back off the table.
Now I'll make a motion to rescind the motion.
We need a second for that. Seconded by Commissioner Kirkby. Comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, you can signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are back to ground zero now. With that, comments or questions on the numbers and the changes that are in front of us? We do have to finalize today, so we are going to have to move forward with this.
I'll move to adopt.
Move to adopt by Commissioner Cole.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Nyberg. Comments on that motion? I would just like to offer a thank you to the department for taking the suggestions yesterday from the commission and moving forward with some solutions. So thank you to you and your team. All right. Oh, Commissioner Spring.
I'd like to thank the department for doing what they did. It was kind of a push to get it done, but it was great. They worked with us really well. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? It is adopted. Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you. Thank you all. With that, number 12 is what I have next on my agenda if we are ready to go with our folks addressing number 12. Very good.
All right, thank you. All right, good morning. My name is David Mallett. I'm a habitat biologist here in Region 1 at our Rapid City. I'm going to be, I've got the privilege of giving some updates on what our habitat crew has been doing out here. So originally there's going to be 2 of us, Austin Yoakum, my colleague who handles all of our food plots and native grass restoration projects, couldn't make it today. He's actually got held up working on one of the projects I'm going to be highlighting. So I'll do my best to fill in for him. So yes, we're going to be highlighting some of the food plots and native grass projects we are currently working on or accomplishing, and also some of our woody habitat projects, some hardwood or deciduous tree release projects, and pine thinning, non-native species removal in our tree and shrub plantings. So first off, we'll talk about the food plots. So we plant a little over 1,000 acres annually with food plots. We are greatly assisted by our Pheasants Forever's partners. We have one based in Shade Hill and one at the Hill Ranch GPA, which is down in Fall River County. Up at Shade Hill, they plant a little over 300 acres. Shade Hill is about 160, 170 acres this year. And then Austin, with help from our other habitat biologists and Rapid, are almost 600 acres. And then we have a little bit more, just depends on the GPA. There's a few neighboring landowners that would contract to plant some food plots. It's probably another 100, 150 acres. We do rotate quite a few crops that Austin's got a nice rotation system going. Anything from corn and soybeans, sorghum, Sudan grass, alfalfa, oats, cover crop mixes, winter wheat, sunflowers, red milo. So the first project I'll highlight is a grass restoration down at the Todd GPA in Bennett County. So this is an area that was basically really taken over by some cool season non-native grasses, some smooth brome and crested wheat grass especially. So Austin's plan was to kind of tackle this 50 acres at a time. So he'd mow off the grass, spray it out with Roundup, 50 acres per year, plant back some Roundup ready crops, typically corn and soybeans, and then after 3 years, he plant that back to native grass. It takes about 3 years to get rid of the seed bank for that cool season invasive grasses. So this was started in 2022 with the first acres. You can kind of see over there, that's the initial 50 acres, and then planted in the corn and beans. And so we kind of did that rotation, adding 50 acres each year here. And then in 2025 was the first 50 acres planted into native grass. So this was the first year with corn and soybeans grown under it. And so in 2023, we had 100 acres of corn and soybeans. Down there, it's here in July, the corn was doing really well. Even in a drought year in 2024, we're still getting good, especially for West River, pretty good production on the corn out there. And then in 2025 was the first year putting into native grass. And this GPA down there, we do have pretty good density of grouse and pheasants. And so he decided to put in 25 acres of a final flush cover crop mix to benefit those species, and still doing well with the corn and beans for that year. And so just a timeline to finish out this project. Through 26 and 27 will be another 50 acres being converted into native grass, and then finish up in 28. So all told, we'll have about 200 acres converted into native grass, and then we'll have 50 acres of a permanent food plot out there. And kind of second project here, also at the same GPA, Todd GPA. This is another 70 acres of native grass conversion, started in 22 as well. Kind of the same issue with smooth brome and crested wheatgrass down there. We wanted to convert that back into some warm season grasses and some native forbs. So this is what it looked like spring of 21, mowed and sprayed off in spring of 22. The first summer, late summer, had a pretty good response with the warm season grasses, and some of the forbs were coming in. Next year, the forbs really started coming in, especially the black-eyed Susan there. And then in 24, even bigger response from some of our native forbs there. The warm season grass was kind of declining over that, but we're pretty happy with how that turned out overall with those forbs still holding strong. So that kind of highlights some of our food plots and native grass projects that we've been doing here lately. I'm going to switch gears a little bit to our woody habitat projects. Going to highlight 4 of those for you. A hardwood release up at the Marcotte GPA, Crow Peak pine thinning and hardwood release, Russian olive removal project, and a Billsburg fencing and planting project. First I'll highlight is our Marcotte GPA, which is just outside the town of Sturgis. We're right on the city limits there. You kind of see the first neighborhood. So it gets a lot of hunting pressure and use by the public there. This project was funded from our PR dollars and National Wild Turkey Federation. The objective was to encourage our bur oak growth, and to do that we were wanting to remove the competition, namely pine saplings and seedlings, as well as some of the ironwood that was grown in there. So there's 3 areas that we identified that we had pretty good oak stands growing in, but they need a little bit of help. That totaled about 36 acres, and this was contracted, and contractor used equipment. This is actually a picture of our equipment, but it's very similar in style. So used a disc style mulching head, which has teeth on the front, top, and back. And it's a tool. They'll cut the tree down, and then it'll suck it in and grind it up, basically turn it into mulch all at once. So it's a very efficient and effective tool. So some before and after pictures here. You can see in the before here in the foreground with the tree with the dead leaves on it. So this is taken in the winter. That's the ironwood, and then we've got a bunch of pine saplings and seedlings coming up. Afterwards, see, we really open that up. The bur oaks are right here, kind of in the middle. I've got a nice snag that's great for wildlife habitat, and really opened up that space in there. We'll get a lot more understory growth with our grass and forbs that were present. And just another picture of that before and after. Didn't have as much pine here in this stand before, still a lot of ironwood, but really opened that up afterwards. And then mulch you see on the ground there, within one growing season or even maybe 2 or 3, you'd be hard pressed to find that. It'll melt away pretty fast. So the next project was at the Crow Peak GPA complex, and this is just outside the town of Spearfish. It's actually kind of 3 GPAs kind of put together. This was funded through Habitat Stamp and again with the National Wild Turkey Federation funding. And it was, I know it's kind of hard to see in this map here, but there's 8 smaller projects kind of combined into one. And these range anything from oak and aspen enhancement projects, birch enhancement, and then actually even had a wild apple enhancement project, whereas I'm thinking it's remnants of an old orchard around a native spring, and there's a bunch of apple trees still growing up in there, so we wanted to make sure we kept those hanging around, and so reduce the competition and release those trees there. A couple pine thinning projects. All told, this was about 20 acres on that area. Again, contracted, and was done all through handwork, so chainsaw cutting and then lop and scatter and piling. The first area is an aspen project, and so this complex is probably about 1,000 acres, but less than 15 of it is aspen, which is a really important habitat in the Black Hills. Besides riparian areas, it's probably the most diverse habitat in the hills. So we really try and encourage that when we can. You see here, there's this pretty small aspen stand. Really can't really see it here because of the ironwood and pine and a little bit of oak saplings are in here. So what we like to do is come in before the contractor and do something called root ripping, where we it's just a single shank, metal shank on a skid steer, and you sever the roots all around the exterior of the aspen clone, and that stimulates those roots that are in the outside to send up new regen. So we're trying to expand that clone. So that's the first step of it, but then you got to protect that regen from all the hungry mouths that want to eat it. We don't have any grazing leases on this property, so it's mainly deer and elk, but they can still do a really big number on those. So we do something called hinging, and that's where we take all the trees that we don't want, so the pine and ironwood in this case, you make a cut on it, knock that tree over where it's still attached to the trunk, and it basically makes a big barrier where it's hard for those critters or discourages those animals from wanting to go in there and browse off the aspen. Those aspen will grow up through those branches that are laid over and have some protection until they get out of the browse zone. So it's kind of a 2-for-1. We remove that competition as well as protect that regen. Another project, or another aspect of this project, was a kind of a pine thinning and oak enhancement project. See the mature oak here. There's a bunch of pine in the background, a little hard to see, and a bunch of ironwood. And mainly we're thinning around the oak in here to encourage those, to reduce that pine density. And there's enough material, we had to make some burn piles that will come back and burn later here in a couple winters to get rid of that. And then this one was our birch project. We don't work with birch a whole lot, mainly because we don't have a whole lot of it, but it's just important for species diversity that we keep that on our properties and on the landscape. A little harder to see here, but there's a bunch of pine regen and saplings that were growing up into this birch, and so we had the contractor come in and take all that pine out. You can see here, it's all laid on the ground, a lop and scatter, and open up and give that birch a little more growing space in there. So the third project here is the Oral GPA Russian Olive Removal Project. So this was Hunt for Habitat funded, as well as Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation helped us out with this project. And with 61 acres over here on the east side, there's a drainage on the east side of this property that the Russian olive is really growing into. We contracted here again. The contractor came in, removed all the Russian olive with chainsaws, came back and did a stump application with herbicide. I don't know if you've ever dealt with Russian olive or cut it down, but if you cut Russian olive, you basically just make it mad and it sprouts aggressively back. So to kill it off, you really need to use a herbicide application. And then we came back in with the mastication equipment to clean up all that dead Russian olive. And then we also planted 600 native trees and shrubs, as well as kind of a second phase for the project. So why did we remove Russian olive? Well, Russian olive is extremely adaptable, it's tough, and will outcompete any native trees and vegetation that we have. So you can see it's really thick here in the understory. We're concerned with these cottonwoods in here. Eventually, if left, that Russian olive will prevent any cottonwood regeneration in there. It just shaded all out in that drainage. There's still, with that Rocky Mountain juniper in there and that cottonwood in there, there's still quite a bit of cover left in there, so we felt okay removing this Russian olive in this case. You can see how it opened up in there. Hopefully we get a little bit more space in there, and we'll kind of monitor to see if we get any of that cottonwood regeneration. If not, we may do some supplemental planting with cottonwoods or willows in there. And just another brief picture of that, just some more Russian olive that we took out and opened it up in this area. And this is just a picture of the plantings that we did there. We do have a grazing lease on this property, so we did put up some fences to keep those cows out of there. We do use tree tubes on most of our plantings to help mitigate deer browsing on those. And then we use a weed barrier, either a mat or mulch to keep down the grass competition. Basically, try and give our trees that we plant as much chance to grow as we can. And final project here is the Billsburg GPA fencing and planting project. Billsburg is a small GPA. It's about 45 minutes north of Phillip, and it's about 80 acres. It's mostly grassland. We've got a couple stock dams, and then there's a couple drainages. Was really only two places of any woody cover on this property. So here in the kind of the northwest corner, there's just a few willows hanging on here that were getting browsed pretty heavy by deer and cows. And so we came in and erected a 8-foot enclosure on that. And just in a couple years, without any supplemental plantings, that willow patch kind of tripled in size. So we're pretty happy with that response. And there we'll continue to monitor that. And then in the southwest corner, we had, it shows up a little better, I think, in this next picture. In 19, in the fall, you can see just a little patch of plum that was hanging on there. Same thing in spring of 21, we erected another 8-foot fence in there. This picture was taken, the picture on the right was taken just late summer after we erected that fence, and that just so that one growing season, those plums almost tripled in size in their footprint, just keeping critters excluded from them. You see they're still getting pretty hammered out here where stuff still has access to it. And just 2 years later, it's probably 5 times the size it was. So we're happy with that response. We planted some, the bottom side of that enclosure, we planted some choke cherries just to increase our species diversity down there for the future. And real briefly, we also we try and plant about 1,000 trees and shrubs each year by hand with our, when we get our interns here. We'll get started here next week for this season. Mostly do that in GPAs outside of the Black Hills. And we are heavily dependent on rainfall in the year to get these trees established. We do some supplemental watering when we can. But with that, we try and focus on areas with good soil, drainages that are going to retain moisture a little longer, and in riparian areas. And we don't plant too many new shelter belts. We do evaluate areas for that, but where we need shelter belts or where it'd be good spots for them, we really already have them. So a few years ago, we started doing shelter belt surveys, and we kind of focus now on shelter belt maintenance. So identifying areas, shelter belts that could be expanded, maybe they need some more conifers, on one side, or if rows have died out, we'll replace those rows and kind of rehab those shelter belts. So, and with that, I don't know if there's time, but I'm more than willing to take questions.
Very good. Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Spring?
You were saying about planting back to native grasses. What kind of seeds or what varieties are you using?
So I'll give you my best guess what I think it is. It's a question for Austin. I know it's going to be some wheatgrass, some big blue. Let's see, I think there was some switchgrass, probably some side oats grama, some blue grama. But yeah, for cool season natives, there are probably some green needle grass, that big blue stem, like I said, or that's warm season. The wheatgrass was the other cool season. So.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other? Commissioner Whitmire?
Yeah, impressive number of acres of food plots and whatnot. I was curious, do you do a lot of that broadcast and then just work it in? I mean, I've seen that. I had a neighbor that wanted to establish some food plots, and instead of getting a planter, he was recommended that to him, and I thought that was a great idea. Curious what you guys, if you kind of lean towards going with a traditional planter, or if you do the broadcast.
It's almost all of it is no-till with a no-till drill. Occasionally, I think he will do in some spots some broadcast just from an ATV, just in harder to access areas. But I think it's almost all of it that he does is that no-till drill.
Okay, and then follow up on the soybeans.
Yeah.
Use that which I do the same thing to reestablish alfalfa. You just gotta clean it up for a couple of years of soybeans. But as a producer, I get to combine the beans, and it's just part of the whole operation. But when you guys do the soybeans, if it's in an ag area and you've got an operator, do you just kind of lease that out for a couple of years, or do you just let basically let the soybeans become wildlife feed, and or just how does that work?
Right. So we don't harvest any of the food plots that we put in. If they'll just get mowed off in the spring and then replanted. I believe in some cases, if we contract with neighbors, I think sometimes it's worked in, they can take a certain percentage of what they plant and the rest is left for wildlife food plots. Yeah, but everything that our staff plants isn't harvested.
Yeah, excuse me, I was not on the food plots with the soybeans. It was where you were trying to reestablish native grasses. Where
sure.
Home and I think it was western wheatgrass or something like that.
Yeah.
You're trying to reestablish that where you're actually, kind of like farming it for a couple of years. Is that something, if that's, I'm just curious what you do with the soybeans.
No, that's just left for the wildlife as well. Yep. So yeah, even though that corn and soybeans, that's that Roundup Ready crop that'll eventually turn into our native grass. Yeah, that's just essentially 1 year, or technically, I guess, 3-year food plot. Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions? Just quick, when you are doing this work, how do you determine where you're going to go?
Good question. A lot of us just getting out and walking around or driving around and, I haven't been to that area in a while. I need to go check that out. Kind of developing an eye for that, and kind of keeping a running list of projects that I think may need attention. So yeah, it's kind of a combination of things. Just a lot of us just getting out and seeing the properties and seeing what needs attention, really.
Very good. Very good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We will move on now. We're going to jump down to item 17, projects in the West region.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioner, Secretary Roebling, Matt Snyder, Parks Regional Supervisor for Western South Dakota. This morning, I just got a brief presentation to update on some of the projects that we got going on across the West region here. As you can see, the West region, we go from North Dakota up at Shade Hill down to Angostura, Nebraska border there, and then over to Wyoming. And then of all places, Wall is where we kind of end and kind of zigzag up and around. So we'll start with the Shade Hill shop. As you can see, the shop, the pictures there, it's beyond its useful life. We have some structural issues starting to show up with the roof. We're probably one good snowstorm, heavy snow from that thing collapsing. And then with the equipment we have anymore, we're having trouble getting it in. It's just like I said, it's seen its useful life. Part of the Shade Hill shop, it's basically will be a cost share with the BOR, Bureau of Reclamation. So roughly about a $700,000 build, and they'll pay 50% of that. It kind of mirror the Rocky Point shop that's at Belle Fourche Reservoir right now. There's 3 bays. The Game Fish and Parks will actually maintain 2 of those bays for our operation, and then the Bureau of Reclamation gets 1 of those bays. So we're looking at a fall completion, but we went out to bid to try and enhance some bidders. We're basically pushing that to a spring completion, give them some more time, and hopefully get a good price on it. Moving on to Nicholson Trail. You probably heard in the past, we have over 100 bridges on the Nicholson Trail of different lengths and sizes, and we've started an inspection program a few years ago where we have Banner Engineering has been coming out and doing some inspection on us, and they've identified 24 bridges as what they would deem in poor condition. From those reports and that, we have found a contractor down in Nebraska that basically his expertise is railroad bridges, and they're a bridge contractor. And he has some specialized equipment. He's come up and specifically looked at bridge number 74, which is up in the Mystic area, and has identified what we call caps, that basically what the rails would have sat on basically need replaced, and pretty effective way of how he can do it. So we're in the process of writing a contract with this individual and going out for bid and getting that done. The goal then is with these 24 bridges, there's like 4 of them that are really small that we're looking to basically experiment with this fall with putting some culverts in rather than trying to continually maintain a small bridge in some remote areas that nobody really sees. Some of the more prominent bridges of the remaining 20, we hope to basically get into a contract with somebody that's capable of doing the work and basically doing some inspections and getting the work done at the same time. And then we're hoping within the next 3 to 4 years to have those deficiencies fixed. And then we'll keep this ongoing inspections of these bridges and that. But what we're finding out is they're not as in bad a shape as what maybe we first thought. Yes, there's some work that needs to be done, but it's not to the point where a whole bridge needs to be replaced. There's just aspects of it that need to be replaced as they wear out. Then we move down to Hot Springs at Angostura there. District Supervisor Andrew Kathman has been working with the high school down there to build a camper cabin in their shop complex. We used to do this through the state prison, and we found that going through the high school, we supply the materials, they supply all the labor, and it's been a good training opportunity for them. We have an electrician here at Custer State Park that's actually down there today wiring this building, doing the rough wiring and all that. The kids are having a lot of fun. They'll be out at the park next week helping pouring concrete for the slab. So it's been a great partnership, and the instructors are already looking and saying, can we build another one next year? So it's been a great opportunity for the school as well as for us. We're saving some money and we're getting a good product, and it's been a great learning opportunity for everyone involved. Some other projects down there on the Sheps Canyon side. Andrew and his crew worked with the Black Hills, the Black Hills chapter of Pheasants Forever down there, and they planted 1,100 trees already this spring. Had a donation of $10,000 from Carl Castor Memorial Habitat, and then had some Habitat stamp money that went into that as well. They got fabric on these trees down there, and they have irrigation lines ran to these trees as well because we get awful dry down there. So we have an allotment out of the reservoir to where we have a solar pump, and then that pumps water through an irrigation line to these tree belts to promote growth, and then every year they'll go through and dead ones they'll pull out and replant some hand ones. So been a great project. They had a lot of fun doing that, and it was a great partnership. Some other things they did down there is last fall they put that picnic shelter in the rec area down there. Then they're working on the Angostura side. They have a bunch of cabins they're reshingling. So the cabins used to come out with wood shakes, which look very nice, but then they start to deteriorate with this heat and the sun down there, and then we get the hailstorms and it starts cracking them up and breaking. So we found metal wood shakes, or not wood, but a metal shake that looks like wood that stands up really well to the hailstorms, looks pretty natural from a distance, looks like a wood shake. So that's what we've started to go through down there. And then they also had one of their most popular cabins down there, the deck, large deck on it was starting to really show its wear and tear. And they went in this spring and took that out and put a new deck in. So, and then here at Custer State Park, we have an ADA trail upgrade. So we're working, this is behind the main visitor center is what we're doing here. We've always wanted to put an amphitheater in back there. So through a fundraising opportunity with the foundation and some ADA state money we had, this is happening this spring. We're waiting on, it's kind of a combination between a contractor and our staff, putting this all together. But really what made this possible is Custer State Park Resort Company came through with a $60,000 donation to the foundation. So that's basically, they're splitting the cost. We had $60,000 in ADA state funds to put towards it. So it's going to be a great project, great partnership to get this done. And we're looking for this to be done probably late June. So to be ready for this summer season when it really starts rolling. And then as you guys heard yesterday and have seen firsthand, the event barn upgrade here for kind of a holding kitchen and that for the resort company, something that we've been wanting to do for a while, and it's turned out really nice. Really fits in, blends in well with the building. If you didn't know it wasn't here already, you would have never known that it was just added. So great project. And then up at Sylvan Lake, we're looking at this fall replacing our comfort station. It took a tree this winter, but even before that, it's at end of life. When we went through our 2020 master plan up at Sylvan Lake, it was identified that this building needs to be replaced. It currently offers 2 opportunities per side for men's and women's, which is not enough in the heart of the summer. It's not good enough to where it's not good enough to where we can keep it open early enough in the shoulder season or late enough in the fall. So we're looking at a prefabbed building that we would bring in, a concrete building prefab. It would offer 5 opportunities per side to deal with the amount of people we have up there. There'd be a heat source in this building to where we could open it up earlier in the spring and keep it open later in the winter. People don't ever stop coming to Sylvan Lake. They're hiking the trails all year round up there, and rather than trying to maintain porta potties and vault toilets, it'd be a lot easier to have running water and flush toilets for them. So project that's going to kind of be a combination between a contractor and staff-led project as well, and looking forward to that. I think I froze up Chris. There we go, didn't move. Move there. I didn't touch anything.
Well, I think we lost Zoom at one point.
Well, the next slide is just dealing with our road construction here in the park. Like I explained to some of you, it started last October and it'll probably finish this October. So it's a DOT project along 16A. They've gone through and basically replacing and upgrading the majority of the culverts underneath the road. A lot of them were old metal corrugated culverts that they're replacing with concrete. There's a few box culverts that they're doing a poured in place, and then doing some patchwork, and then they'll eventually come in and do a complete mill and overlay of the entire stretch through the park. And then at the junction here of 16A and the Wildlife Loop Road, they want, for safety purposes, they're trying to make the Wildlife Loop Road come more in at a 90-degree angle rather than this sweeping curb for people turning and people entering Highway 16A. So that's what you're seeing with the disruption over there. So yeah, it'll be a process. We're starting to see more and more use coming to the park. So it'll be okay at the end of the day. We'll have a great product, but it's just a little bit of pain right now and patience with our own staff and people traveling through the park, but we'll get through it. So, and then another project we used some ARPA funds for this down at the horse camp or French Creek Horse Camp. We enhanced The corral shelters down there we built a few years ago. Prior to this, we just had open shelters, and what would happen is when people would come in, they bring their horses in, and then we'd get a hailstorm. We get quite a few of them, and it beats the horses up to where they're bruised, and then the people can't ride their horse for a couple days. And they're like, well, if we're only here for a couple days, sometimes we don't even get a ride at all. So we put a project together, and the staff built these shelters, and then with that, we drilled a new well, put a new building down there to house the well and all the components of that, and now we have hydrants that are going to all these corral structures. It keeps them from going down in the creek, the degradation of French Creek down there, so trying to restore that creek bed and that shoreline down there by keeping the horses out, but also supplying them with water now to be able to water their horses when they come in. So been a great project, and we're excited to see that this summer. I think the horse people are really going to enjoy that improvement. And then just our ongoing fence repairs, as I talked last month, the quarry fire took out 3 miles of fence. Staff are actively working on that now. And then as we've gotten around more and more, we clear trees off the other sections of the boundary fence. The wind blows, more trees are still coming down on it, taking it down in spots. So that's going to be an ongoing thing all summer long. We'll get this 3 miles up and fixed, and then we'll move on to the other spots that need repaired and keep working through it. I think last month I said I was asked about the fence. We're replacing all of our wooden posts with metal posts, and then we've gone to high tensile, but it's not high tensile woven wire. It's high tensile 6-strand wire is what we're going through, and we keep it up off the ground enough to where like deer and pronghorn can access it, can go in and out of the park underneath of it without any issues. And then it's about 6 feet, and they're telling me the elk can still get over it, and especially on the west side where they go between us and the Forest Service on the west and the north side. So good project. It'll be a good project to get done, but yeah, at least the next time when we have a fire, it's not if, it's when. It'll just burn through it, and we won't have the same issue. I'll stand by for any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Matt. Any questions? The one I do have for you, Matt, and I think you answered this, but I just want to hear it again. I've had a lot of people ask me about construction in the park. What's the timeline?
We're anticipating that it could be done this fall. It will be done this fall, but yeah. They're going to start the milling next week is what we've been told. The beauty of this is DOT is basically, when they mill, a benefit to us, they're also going to do Eastgate and Westgate. That's basically the park's ownership, but DOT's like, we're here, we'll write this into our contract, not a big deal. So we get that benefit, but we'll see a disruption for the majority of the summer. They do have to take a break over the Sturgis rally, so we don't have that impact. And then for about a week and a half right before Roundup and that, they would have to stop work as well and just let traffic flow. But yeah, it sounds like we're going to have a disruption for the majority of the summer. So yeah.
Thank you. Well, they're still going to come. They just wanted to know.
Yeah, just be patient. So yes.
Any other questions, comments for Matt? Very good. Thank you so much. All right, and with that, we'll move to 18, CSP Fire Protection Partners.
Madam Chair, Commission, Secretary Roebling, good morning. Jason Gooder, Operations at Custer State Park. I'm here to introduce Sterling Smith. He's our fire forester. He surprised me. He's not wearing a hat today. Didn't recognize him, but he's going to talk a little bit about the Wildland Fire Suppression Incident Command System and how that relates to us when we do fire suppression here in the park, and also the prescribed fire portion of it as well, and how that ties together. So with that, I'll give it to Sterling.
Thank you for the introduction. Madam Chair, Commissioner, Secretary Roebling, good morning. So I'm just going to kind of go over wildland fire structure, and then I'll, like Jason said, talk about how we handle that in the park. So as you guys know, wildfires don't really follow boundaries very well. And so we have created nationally the National Wildland or Wildfire Coordination Group. And what they do is they set up kind of a standardization for training and qualifications across the nation. So when we get qualified to fight fires in the park, we're also qualified to fight fires anywhere in the country, and vice versa, so that when we have fires in the park, we need help, the Forest Service can come here and it's easy to work with them. And so the most basic qualification that they have is firefighter 2, and which that is you take about a week worth of classes, and then you take what we call the pack test, which is you have to walk 3 miles with a 45-pound pack in 45 minutes. And once you do that, you're qualified as a basic wildland firefighter. Once that's done, as you kind of go through your career, you can get more qualifications through classes and experience. We have these things called task books. So if you want to become the next level, you have to spend usually at least 3 training sessions on fires. You'll have a trainer, you're doing the job, they're watching you, making sure you can do it okay. If you do well, you get signed off, and then you keep building on your qualifications that way. So some examples of this would be like engine boss. That means you could take an engine out to a fire with a crew. Task force leaders, burn bosses, and divisions, and so on. So within Custer State Park, we have what we call the Fire Guard, and that's GF&P employees that work for the park that are qualified to go on fires. Here we have 5 engine boss qualified folks. And so there's 5 of us. If we do get a fire, they need help, they can call us, and we could take an engine out with other GFP employees. On top of that, we have between 5 to 10 firefighter type 2s, sometimes more, sometimes less, depends on seasonal help and who takes the pack test that year. Let's see, sorry about that. So we're qualified, so how do we go to these fires? So locally we have Great Plains Dispatch Center, and they cover Nebraska and South Dakota essentially. If South Dakota Wildland Fire says they need help, we'll go help staff an engine, and then that dispatch would call us to a fire. Or if we're just on standby, we call in service to them, and then they would dispatch us out. As we get bigger fires, then it goes to the geographic level, the GAC, that's our region. So for example, the Quarry Fire we had 2 months ago, I guess, they would, once we run out of resources here, you bump it up to the region, they bring in resources. Once we run out of resources regionally, then you go nationally and they bring in resources. So that's kind of how you get, for instance, on the Quarry Fire, we had folks from Montana here, Colorado, I believe, South Dakota, Nebraska, kind of all over. For fires, we break them up on how complex they are, and then for each level, you have to be a higher level incident commander. So type 5 fires are your most basic fires. That might be like a single tree fire in the park, something that's less than an acre. Oftentimes you won't even hear that we had a fire that size. We'll put it out, and that's kind of the end of it. And it goes all the way to type 1 fires. With type 2 and type 1 fires, the Quarry Fire that we had, that would have been, it was a type 3 fire, but almost type 2. Once you get to those bigger fires, there's predetermined teams across the nation that you can call, and they'll show up with all the overhead needed to help put the fire out. Once they're done, they release, or they return the fire back to the local units. So that's kind of, if we have a large fire in the park, that's how you could, if we went type 2, you might have an incident commander from Colorado be in charge of the fire in the park. And then we also have prescribed fire complexity level similar to wildfires. So there's low complexity, that'd be like if we're burning piles in the park in the winter. Moderate complexity, we'd call that type 2. That's when we're doing like our 200-acre burns that you'll see us do. That'd be a type 2 prescribed fire. And then high complexity would be larger, multiple jurisdictions. Perhaps you're near private residences, that type of thing. So whenever we do a prescribed fire in the park, we write a plan like this, and that's also through the NWCG, and that kind of goes through all the steps needed, helps us predict fire behavior, tells us how many folks we need to have to run the prescribed burn, kind of helps us figure out costs, all that good stuff. Okay, so we all kind of follow the NWCG standards. So all the states belong to the National Association of State Foresters, and they're represented within NWCG. And then where we are, we have the Black Hills Fire Protection District. So that goes from I-90 down to Highway 79, and then across Hot Springs. And everything within that, if it's on private or state ground, that's South Dakota State Wildland Fire's jurisdiction. And then Forest Service would be in charge of theirs. Then you have the Park Service in charge of theirs. That wouldn't include municipalities. And then for the rest of the state, South Dakota Wildland Fire has protection over all lands that are 10% timbered. And with prescribed burning, South Dakota Game Fish and Parks, we follow the NWCG standards as well. So kind of to give you an overall, before I do questions here, how this works for us. So we meet all these standards. I'll give you an example on the quarry fire. Wildland Fire will call us when they need help, and then we'll kind of put together who's available or not. So for the quarry fire, we threw together an engine, and then we also had a couple of us in charge of heavy equipment. But an example of that was most of us were actually fighting that fire on Forest Service ground. And then as it grew into the state park, we had other folks helping that. And once you go to an area of the fire, that's kind of your spot. So with that, we had, I think, roughly 7 of us helping with that fire. And then we also had Jason, who kind of acts as a liaison in the park here and works with the fire folks to help decide where to put lines, what's best for our resources, and how we can handle it best in the park. Oftentimes during the summer, if we're dry, Wildland Fire will call us, ask us to staff an engine for them so we can still do our normal jobs. We'll just have the engine with us that day. And if a call comes out for a fire, we'll go help them. We help them quite a bit. They help us. It's a pretty good relationship with Wildland Fire. And they have their district office located in the park. I'm sure a lot of you have been there and seen that. So that's a really quick overview of Wildland Fire command structure. But do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Questions for either? The one that I did have, you were talking about when resources run out and others come in to help out. How often does that happen?
Depends on the fire season and the area. Around here, it'd be, I don't know, every 3 years or so, maybe we get dry enough that we're bringing resources in. And that'd be, sometimes they're staged here in the park. Sometimes, if we're really dry, we'll just bring in resources even without a fire just to stage. But for these big fires, it doesn't take much to run out. So whenever you see larger fires like the quarry fire, we're going to be bringing in folks from the outside because you still need folks also available to put out any new starts as well.
Mm-hmm. And then my other question, when we are in a drought like we are, is there kind of prep work or plans in place with the understanding of how dry things are, or is that just something that you do on a normal basis anyway?
So we'll have staffing levels, kind of run cards for fires. So when we meet certain thresholds, no matter where the start is, you'll send so many resources to it. And one of the ways we manage that, we take fuel moistures in the park and around here every week. And once those get dry enough, and then we have charts like energy release component that shows how how hot and dry we are, and so that'll dictate how many folks we send to a fire. It can also help bring in folks just to stage.
Okay.
So I imagine, like this summer, it wouldn't be uncommon for South Dakota Wildland Fire to bring in extra engines they already have or crews to the park and just be staged here.
Very good. Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the commission?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Sterling, talk about staffing. How many staff members do you have in the park focused on firefighting? Number two, talk a little bit about the equipment you have. And then how well do you sleep at night when there's lightning storms?
Through the chair. So for me, I'm kind of my own entity in a way, but then when it comes to fires, we have those 10 to 15 other folks that I kind of help line up to get to them. And then when we're on fires, your qualifications don't matter from your normal day job, right? It's whatever qualification you have on that fire. So hopefully someday Secretary Roebling gets his FFT2 and I can be his boss for a couple days. So yeah, we have roughly 10 to 15. Not all, we have our outside lives too, so we're not always tied to being on call. But generally we can put together 2 engines about if we have a fire in the park. As for equipment, so State Wildland Fire provides us the equipment. Way back in the day, we used to have our own. Now they kind of take care of all the equipment for us, but they have right now 3 Type 6 engines, which kind of look like more of a pickup. They're the smallest engines that you see often. And then we have a tender and then a skid steer. And they also have a couple dozers. A lot of times they'll stage a dozer down in the park. So when we get that call, we just hop on their equipment. You had one more in there, I think I forgot.
Yeah, how well you sleep at night.
Oh, with lightning, I'm okay. It's when we do prescribed fires that I don't sleep well at night. Yeah.
Very good. Anything else from the commission? Oh, Commissioner Teal.
Thanks, Sterling. Is there any plans with all these trees that have blown over to burn any of those areas? Obviously not right now, but as conditions allow, would there be any plans to burn any of that stuff that's heavily blown down?
Through the chair. Eventually, yes. We had 2 prescribed burns planned this spring and through obviously dry fuels and the windstorm, those have kind of fallen apart. So we have to do a lot of re-prepping because we have trees blown all through the lines and it's kind of a mess. And some areas we don't want to burn again, like for instance, areas where there's a lot of pine and oak stands. Now all those pines are on the ground. If we burn it right now, it's going to burn too hot. But eventually, yeah, we'll plan on going through areas that have been hit and trying to do some prescribed burning in there. We're also hoping to get more taken out this fall through salvage logging. They should be back here in the fall and continued doing what they're doing. So if you drive down the loop road past Volunteer Village, that's the area we've already salvage logged, and that kind of gives you a good feel of what it looks like after that.
Very good. Anything else? Thank you both for the presentation. Well done.
Thanks.
Thank you. And from that, we will move to 19, Mickelson Trail events for 2026.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Secretary Roebling. So I'm here on a little bit lighter note. So we're going to talk today. I'm Shannon Percy with District 14 in the Northern Hills. Talk about the Mickelson Trail events that happen out there. Okay. So we have several marathons that happen on the Mickelson Trail. The Deadwood Crazy Horse, Lean Horse, and Black Hills Veterans March happen throughout the summer and get quite a bit of participation. So we want to kind of highlight some of these. Now, these aren't all the trails or all the events that happen out there. There's a lot more, but these are the larger ones. The Deadwood Mickelson Trail, they bring in about 2,500 people to run that marathon. That happens in early June, and they start at Rochford and finish in Deadwood. It's quite a number of people. The Lean Horse Mickelson Trail Ultra Marathon. Now this one's unique. We have to actually have a special use permit. The Mickelson is normally closed after sunset, a half hour after sunset. This one runs 100 miles, and they get 1,500 participants to run 100 miles. The first time that we let this go through, I actually was down looking at the trail and a little bit nervous about letting people run at night and worried about our landowners next to it. And I talked to a gentleman, he was down there looking, and I said, why do you do this? And he said, just to see if I can finish. About 100 miles, they do get it done. About 1,500 people participate in that. We also have the Black Hills Veterans March, and that happens during our, kind of in conjunction with our Mickelson Trail Trek. And they march, basically it's our National Guard, they come out and they do a march from Rochford into Deadwood, and they have about 125 veterans and National Guard folks that come out and do that. The Crazy Horse Mickelson Trail Marathon, they have about 1,500 that participate in this marathon. This is in the fall, late fall. So they start in the kind of the center of the Mickelson Trail and run through the Hill City, Custer area and up to Crazy Horse. So that one is growing in popularity also. Then we move on to our trail treks. Our trail treks are done with us, Game Fish and Parks. We, in conjunction with the Parks and Wildlife Foundation, put these trail treks on. So the proceeds go to the foundation, and then we use those proceeds for Mickelson Trail bridges or anything that we need out there on the Mickelson. So this year is going to be our 7th annual spring or summer trek. These numbers here are actually what we're seeing in June. So it's 383 people. This one is growing in popularity each year. So we're up about 50 to 60 people over last year. But it's a 3-day ride, and it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Kind of confusing. So the first day and all treks are like this. So we start from Custer and go to Edgemont the first day, Custer to Rochford, and then Rochford to Deadwood on the last day. And of course, our fall trek, this is our annual. It's been from day one, so we're about 481 is what we had last year. I think we're currently about 450 now with registration, and registration will close here in a month. So we're hoping to get to that 600 level. But it's a very popular ride. Our average age is probably, I would say, about 62, the folks that go on this ride. So it's pretty amazing what they do. And of course, it's year-round, the Mickelsons, so we do have winter and spring events out there. So we have the Fat Tire Bike Classic. Now, you look in that picture there, it doesn't look like winter. Of course, this year, it was taken this year. We didn't have much winter at all anywhere. But they had 60 participants that used the Mickelson Trail, and they start in Deadwood. The motorcycle does not go on the Mickelson. They just get escorted up Deadwood Main Street, and then they finish back in Deadwood. They also have our snowshoe hikes. We have 2 guided hikes that we put on, and then Dana works with our local school, Leading Deadwood, and they do the 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And then we'll have about 30 to 50 students that do that for 3 weeks in a row, and they go out and walk on the Mickelson Trail. Something that's unique that we started years ago that we were asked to partner with some of the chambers is our trolley on the trail. So this is to get those handicapped people out on the trail that can't do it otherwise. So we offer 3 rides to do that. So we work with the Deadwood Chamber and then also the Hill City Chamber to put those on. Unfortunately, because of the bridges and some of the bridges, the Hill City portion has been put on hold because we got some bridges that we can't take the trolley over. City of Deadwood donates their time, their trolley driver, the trolley, the gas, just to put this on. So it's a really neat event. Some new things that's happening this year, we're updating the trail map, so that's coming out now. And also we're working on updating our interpretive signs out on the Mickelson Trail. So those are in the process right now, and hopefully by fall, we should have those completed and start putting up this late summer, late fall. And that's the cost there, and that's coming through the foundation. Questions?
Very good. Any questions from the commission? The one that I have, it looks like there's a lot of traffic maintenance. How often do you have to go out and check the use and tear of the trail?
So we have a staff of 2 that's based out of Custer State Park that monitor from Custer to Edgemont, and they're out there every day and just checking on conditions, washouts, whatever could happen. And then we have a staff of 2 in the north that take care of the north end. And of course, right before these big events, we'll be out there doing our sweeps, making sure a trail or a tree hasn't come down on the trail, or looking at those issues.
And then for these events, do you know, is there a fee for people to participate in these?
So what they do is we charge them their pass for the day. So each one of those participants have to buy an annual, or not an annual, but a daily pass.
Daily pass.
In our trail treks, we do charge them the annual pass so they can actually come back.
Very good. Anything else from the commission? Seeing none. Good presentation.
Thank you.
In a moment, we're going to take a break, but before we do, I'm going to throw it to Secretary Roblin for some brief words.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And I do have to run to a meeting here, but I wanted to say, just acknowledge an employee sitting in the room because it's her last day today. Karina Van Zee, her last day with Game Fish and Parks, and she'll be leaving us to work for the conservation districts in Hand County, and we're going to miss her. She's been a great asset to the team. She's got a growing family, and we're excited about that. So congratulations on that. Congratulations on a new job, and yeah, don't be a stranger. So thank you, Karina, for all your hard work and efforts. So that's all I wanted to say, Madam Chair. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Very good. And with that, we are going to take a break. It's 9:06. We will be back in 15 minutes. So small break.
Recording in progress.
0-1.
All right, thank you. And welcome back, everybody. We've got a couple of items left for this month's Game Fish and Park Commission meeting, and we're going to jump right to it. Veterans experiencing the Outdoors Donation Program with Director Van Meteren. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. If you turn to item number 20 in your book there, you will see a new program, a new initiative we're going to start this year. We've Jeff Van Meteren, by the way, Parks Director for Game Fish and Parks. We're gonna implement this summer. Kind of a soft move into this thing. You know, our goal with this program is to truly assist veterans with therapeutic events in our parks. We just feel there's a need for that with our veterans. They use our parks currently. We just think we have a great platform for that. So the goal of this is to both financially collect some donations to help with those events, but also just to provide the parks and the amenities that they're desiring. Currently, we have 2 events that happen in our parks. One is the annual Wahi Downstream Hunt, and then we also have the one that many of you have been exposed to out at Rocky Point with the Veterans Outdoor Therapy Archery Antelope Hunt at Rocky Point. So again, these funds will go towards assisting communities, organizations that want to partner with us to put together these events. So we're going to put together a small committee, probably a 5-member committee made up of some veteran organizations that will help us make decisions on how to utilize those funds. We may ask a commissioner to join that group as well. So again, we're excited about this. This is something that comes out of conversations we have every year with veterans organizations. How can you help us? Veterans themselves and even legislators that are looking to help veterans. This isn't a handout program where we're just going to give something away to all the veterans. This is a program that really helps veterans that are in need, that want this service, and that's what they've asked for. They don't want a handout. They want a program that helps them with needs. This is a new adventure to us, but yet at the same time we have some great experience with this. So we're also going to probably make this one of our roundup options when making reservations, if that has an interest for folks to do that. Otherwise, we have the little QR code down at the bottom of this poster that will allow folks to funnel those donations towards this program. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I guess we've entitled it with a catchy little slogan, Operation Outdoors. So that's what our Veterans Experiencing Outdoors Donation Program will be all about. So with that, I would open it up to any questions.
Jeff, what did you say the timeline is to get it up and running?
We're hoping to get it up, Madam Chair. We're hoping to get it up here in the next 30 days. So yeah, yep. We've had a lot of conversations with those veterans organizations members. We're talking exclusively with one that's really connected with the Council of South Dakota Veterans. We've already got the channel for those funds and where they'll go. We've been told by some of those veteran folks that we could expect some folks out there in the world to match some of these funds too. So we're interested to see what the potential is. But this is also going to really both take and give local communities, local organizations, the opportunity to partner with us. We're hoping, just like we did last year, where we matched the funds locally to put on that event out at Rocky Point. So.
Any questions? Commissioner Bartling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Bartling. Director, when these funds come in, where are they? How are they channeled? Where do deposits go to? How is the funding going to be handled? Thank you.
Through the chair. Great question, Commissioner Bartling. So currently, we'll create a fiscal account within our Parks Division to funnel them, but as they get bigger, our intent is to move them towards the foundation. So we've already talked to them about that. But right now, we don't know what we're going to be generating in terms of dollars. So we're going to start off a little slow that way or a little small that way, and then eventually be moving towards the foundation. And I think by going through the foundation, we'll also create some opportunities for additional people to give and again, possibly to match those funds. Excuse me. Exactly.
Especially for tax deductible.
Correct. And I'm sure there will be some that will want that, so.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Great project. Thank you very much. And I know you're going to stay with us, so.
That's correct. While Amy's coming up here, I think our marketing plan for 2026 is next on the agenda. I'm going to have Amy Bailey join me up here. Give you a little intro to Amy here. Amy Bailey is our graphic design and marketing professional. We've hired her on a contractual basis. She's got 20 years of experience in helping organizations communicate clearly and show up consistently. She operates her own creative business, working with clients on marketing and design projects. Her tourism experience began with Visit Yankton. She now works closely with the Southeast South Dakota Tourism Association and local destinations. And you've been doing that for many years, haven't you, Amy?
Yeah, 3-4 years.
Okay. Outside of work, Amy and her husband are raising 3 boys in Yankton, where they stay active in the community and spend as much time as they can at Lewis and Clark Recreation Area. This year, in fact, I think it's coming up here, marks her 24th anniversary year with the of service in the South Dakota Air National Guard. She started when she was 6, so that's why she looks so young. So anyway, yeah, no, I've known Amy for quite a few years, just locally working with the tourism folks. And as you all know, April Larson resigned and went back to the state of Minnesota, where she's from. And we thought, let's try this. Let's try a different approach to this. We're going to try this. We have a contract for 5 or 6 months, and that's how we're going to do our marketing this summer, and then we'll reevaluate and go from there. So I'm going to have Amy kind of roll through our marketing plan here a little bit.
Amy Bailey, marketing consultant, South Dakota Game Fish and Parks. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I feel like I need to lean over. This morning to talk about marketing and the marketing plan, so we'll dive in. All right, so last year's takeaways, we have some positive outcomes coming out of 25. Modern Lodging had a successful year, and park entrance license sales were strong. And we have also identified some opportunities for growth going into this year, mostly centered around those camping units, midweek stays, low reservation weekends, last-minute cancellations, lapsed guests, and then, of course, the fall shoulder season. So we'll be focusing some efforts there. Our goals to increase the number of camping units overall, and more specifically midweek stays, by 5%. We want to build on that Modern Lodging momentum that they saw last year, and then continue to increase those PEL sales. We have some target audiences identified to go with these goals, and you can kind of read through some of those. For example, we're looking to lean into weekday stays. We're looking at retirees, repeat customers, anglers and hunters, promoting those extended stays, coming on a Wednesday and staying through the weekend. And so, yeah, you can kind of look through there. We're targeting some new audiences, of course. We have quite a few audiences that we can kind of tailor these messages to, which is what we're pretty excited about going into this year. As far as tactics go, we will continue to use data even more in the decision-making process. We want to take a good hard look at evaluate the measurability and performance of the channels that they've been using, and then if we need to reallocate any of those funds, maybe we can put them towards channels where we can really see the outcomes and get the analytics and see how that money is performing. We really want to maximize the potential of our tourism partners and then destination marketing organizations. That's my background, with Southeast South Dakota Tourism and Visit Yankton. We just want to make sure that we are disseminating the information down the pipeline so that they can get it out to their audiences who are already engaged and their media partners. And so we just want to make sure that we're using those free resources to get the information down. And then we have a really great Adventure 250 campaign, and we'll use that to drive awareness and visitation for those PEL sales. We want to give people specific call to actions and fun activities. They put a lot of work into this Adventure 250 campaign, and it's really fun giveaways and a lot of reasons for people to get out to the parks. So we're going to heavily promote that to get people to buy those licenses. And some of the tools, we have a lot of tools, but we just wanted to highlight a few of the top ones. Email marketing has been very strong, and so we'll continue to lean into that. We have two different ways to use that. We have the in-house, very cost-effective platform through iContact that Nick in the back runs. And so we'll definitely keep using that for our general topics. And then we really want to dive deeper into using the Go Outdoors system. They have a lot of capabilities for pulling data for us, and we can do a lot of specific messaging to those very targeted audiences. And they've been a great group to work with so far too. And so we will continue to explore the options there and the possibilities to really get some messaging to people. And we'll continue to use our social media, the overall Game Fish and Parks Facebook page. We can use that in moderation because obviously we need to share that with the other topics. But we also want to make sure that our individual parks have easy to use plug and play content that they can share out to their audiences, and then also to their local DMOs and media partners. And then thirdly, we want to continue to use digital advertising and search engine optimization. Those give us that data that we're looking for to see how things are performing, who we're reaching, what the conversions are. And that was successful last year. We saw a lot of good things come with the PEL sales and the modern lodging. And they had used the digital advertising and SEO for some of those. And so we'll continue to lean into that. And overall, I just want to convey that our strategic approach is to make sure that this marketing plan is a living, breathing document. We're going to monitor it throughout the season, work closely with our vendors instead of just plug and play, and then adapt and adjust when needed to make sure that we're making the best use of everyone's time and funds. And then just that data-driven decision-making for the strategic marketing. So that's our approach. And does anyone have any questions?
Very good. Any questions from the commission? Comments? I have a couple questions. So I know you mentioned Facebook. What other platforms will you use?
Madam Chair, yes, we will use Instagram. Are you talking social media platforms?
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, Facebook and Instagram are the leaders. Maybe some YouTube. I'd have to work with communications team to see what videos we have, but those are the top three.
Yeah. Nick's saying yes. And then I know we've talked about this before, but your reach, how far outside South Dakota are you going to go?
Ooh, I'm not so sure we have narrowed that down. I'm not quite sure.
Are you going to are we going to market to Iowa and to Chicago? I mean, how far will that thumbprint go?
Madam Chair, Jeff Van Meteren, Parks Division Director. In the past, we've kind of limited that reach to like the boundary cities around those states.
Yep.
Probably, I think we've targeted about 100 miles out. Does that sound right, Nick? 150, yeah. 150, thank you. Custer State Park is probably one of the more unique parks in our system in that 80% of their visitors come from out of state. For most of our parks, it's completely the opposite. 80% of their visitors come from within the state. And the other 20% are fairly local. Look at Lewis and Clark as an example. 85% of the visitors at Lewis and Clark come from about a 1 hour to an hour and a half radius around the park. But when you live on the border, you get a lot of folks from Norfolk, Sioux City, Iowa, that kind of stuff. So we would certainly include those type of communities.
Yeah. What is a lapse guest?
Yes, Madam Chair. That would be someone in our system, in the Go Outdoors system, who has stayed or purchased a license, but it's been a couple years. And so they're still in the system, but it's, we're going to reach back out and invite them to come back.
Very good. Any other questions from the commission? Comments?
Madam Chair, if I can just add to what Amy said there. I think we're finally at a point in our tenure with our current vendor that manages our reservations where we're really starting to use this data. We want to use this data. We can get strategic with this data. And that's been very refreshing. Otherwise, the shotgun approach isn't always as good. But we can start now to use a rifle on some of these user groups. Wouldn't it be like this weekend is Mother's Day weekend? It'd be nice to send out a note to all the mothers, encouraging them to come out to the parks and that kind of stuff. And we're finally to a point where we can do some of that stuff, which we're excited about.
Jeff, do you know, last year and I think the year before, we would see some broadcast commercials. I think Chris Hull would say these spots are open. How effective were those?
Madam Chair, that's a great question, and that's Amy kind of addressed that, and that's some of those things and are difficult to measure. That particular one that we did though in the fall, we did see an upsurge in our fall lodging in particular and camping on the central region parks in the state where we have a lot of capacity. Our goal was to have a 300 unit increase, which would pay for that contract, and we exceeded that. So we were happy about that. Was it all due to that advertising? I couldn't sit here and tell you that, but I think it certainly had an effect. So, but as much as possible when we do those kinds of things, we want to have them be measurable. That can be a challenge though at times. So. Very
good. Commissioner Whitmire.
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. Commissioner Whitmire, just to share with you, coming in on Wednesday night, I had my GFP shirt on, and a gentleman from California just had to say, "Are you with the department?" And and he says, "Oh, I just got to give you the highest marks on the park." And then, it's like, "Oh, yes, thank you. I did the." No, but then passing that along, thank you to everybody involved. It was really neat to have someone, see that emblem and want to, reach out and just give those kudos, and certainly it's well deserved. But so part of that is fellow from California, so certainly people are going to continue to come. But do you know historically when you get the pain at the pump, do we see kind of some pressure on the folks that would normally be traveling and maybe cutting back? What do you expect a little bit of pain in kind on that?
Yeah. Through the chair, Commissioner Whitmire, we get that question all the time right now. Well, what's the outlook with $4 gas? I assume that's what you're referring to. And historically, when gas is high, people travel more locally. They don't go on those longer trips. So we have benefited from those higher gas prices. Again, with 80% of our campers, users being residents, local residents, they see value in saving money and just going to their local park as opposed to maybe like Yellowstone or the Bighorns or something like that. So we'll see, but that's typically what we're told on a national level. I also would add, I think people see great value in our park system. I think that's why our park license sales continue to be strong. I think our prices are affordable, we are very cautiously optimistic about this summer.
Commissioner Bartling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Bartling. Director, Ms. Bailey, how much can you tag along or get onto the coattails of tourism as far as marketing, especially if staying in South Dakota with those high gas prices and things like that, you can have that adventure and quality vacation right here without leaving.
Maybe I'll jump in on that, and if you would like to add something, Amy, you're welcome to. Through the chair, Commissioner Bartling. So I contacted tourism last fall and said we would really like to do some co-op marketing. And they understand our goals, and we shared those with them. But they plan out a lot further in advance than we do. And with the 250th thing, they said, come back next year. That's not to say, though, that we don't do a lot of things with them already. They have a partnership program for local communities where they match your monies, and we've used that extensively, both here at Custer, Lewis and Clark, and at one time, you know, if you kick in 40,000, they kick in 40,000, and then you've doubled your money, and most of that's around the digital platforms that we don't typically do. We do a lot of Facebook, so other social medias, emails, that kind of stuff. But so they reach segments that we don't reach that are probably further out. But yes, we do want to always partner with them. We want them to be aware of our goals, and we value our partnership with them. They're good to work with.
And thank you for that. And a second question, do you reach out to local other governmental entities? And I'm thinking, I work with Gregory County, we're developing a new website. And the developer has said, what do you want to tag on your website for Gregory County? You know, that it's going to be really great. And they're going to, and I haven't talked to you yet, but I want to put on Veronic Recreation Area, Burke Lake Recreation Area, Snake Creek, things that people, when they come to Gregory County, they still have something, you know. I don't know if I have to get permission to do that from you or not, but do you reach out to other counties and cities who have parks within their jurisdictional area to say, hey, would you mind advertising for us on your...
Commissioner Bartling, I would tell you that out of our 17 park districts, I would be shocked if every district wasn't part of their local chamber of commerce, their economic development organization. Many have served as presidents of those organizations. We have several managers that have been the chairman of the four primary regional tourism associations. We work extensively with them. They see our parks as part of their economic development vision for their county, for bringing visitors to their counties, their cities. It's a hand in glove relationship. We work well with most of those, and generally always well accepted. No, you do not need permission to promote us. We will gladly take any promotion you want to do. So, but yeah, and a lot of them will reach out to us for information. But I would tell you that our managers are very keyed and tied into those relationships. Yeah, I don't want to go online and brag about some of our staff, but many of them have served in high roles within those organizations in the past. So, yeah.
Commissioner Nyberg.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Director, how often do you reach out on a PR basis to 605 Magazine to do a story, Kello? Do you do that frequently? And then the follow-up question, Amy, would be, the director and I were talking about this younger generation. They're all about experiences. Do you tie in the beautiful bike trail at Yankton in with your marketing? Do you tie in experiences with the marketing plan?
Through the chair, Commissioner Nyberg, I'll take on your first one for sure there. Generally, those media outlets, those media, 605, Kello, will come to us. Occasionally, we will go to them, but media's kind of changed that way a little bit. And we have had several stories in the 605 magazine with our parks. I know Custer State Park was featured. I believe Palisades, the resort here, was featured. We're in those things. That relationship was very different than when I started 5 years ago. No, actually, about 40 years ago. But it's ever evolving. But you know, there used to be a day when we went to them and said, "Hey, would you work with us on this?" Now it seems like they come to us, and yeah, it's great. I'll lead into your second question, then Amy can help with that. I do think those younger visitors in particular are really looking for those experiences. And our primary job has got to be to inform them of what we all have. I think generally most people really support our parks. They love our parks. Our biggest obstacle is helping them understand what we all have in our parks. So we're always going to be challenged with that.
Yes, through the chair. Commissioner Nyberg. Absolutely. I would say we would borderline say that we'll lead with that. I mean, we want to push camping, but with that comes all the imagery and all the inspiration to make a full weekend out of it, use all the bike trails, take the hikes, use the sandy beaches. And so it's not just camping around the campfire. It's use every piece of that park, and these are all the fun things you can do, because people want to go and they don't want to just do one thing. They want to make an entire experience out of it with a lot of different activities. And so, yes, absolutely leave with that.
I think the surge in park license sales last year, and you'll see the numbers here this year, is a credit to that. I think we're seeing a shift in maybe some of those younger generations not camping as much. They still camp, but people my age, if I buy a camper, I'm going to use it 6 times a year. They may rent one and use it once. They may borrow mom and dad's and use it once. But they still like getting out to the parks, and whether it be disc golf. I mean, we have whole leagues going on in our parks. Or it's taking the family out for a bike ride or a picnic, using our boat ramps to go fishing. So, yeah, we need to keep pushing. And I think trying to put those ideas in their head, we hear from a lot, oh, there's nothing to do. And I think we can help with that by planting some of those ideas in their heads.
I have something to add to that. So one exciting specific way we can talk about this year is with that Adventure 250 program that Rachel's office has developed. It's a full list of specific activities that we're challenging people to do, and then they can get points and then earn rewards. And so through that program alone, we are bringing awareness to all the things they can do and rewarding them to do it. So hopefully they see it.
Very good. Anything else from the commission? I will say before you're done, I do think our marketing department within GFMP does an outstanding job. They are always looking at ways to bring visibility to the many things we have to offer. And I appreciate you guys just looking to continue to see what more can we do to reach those folks. So thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Van Meeteren, I know you are going to stay with us again for our final item, our April and year-to-date camping unit and revenue reports.
Correct. Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeff Van Meeteren, Parks Division Director with Game Fish and Parks. So we'll start off, I believe this is item number, 22, the last item in your packet there. If you turn to that, or you could, pretty hard to see that up on the screen there. You'll see that April was a down month. It was weather driven. I'm going to read you a report. So when I get these numbers, I ask my staff, well, what's going on? Why is this park up? Why is this one down? And they always send me a report. I'm going to read you one of my regional supervisors' report for the month of April. First weekend, cool temps, extremely windy conditions, gusts up to 30 miles an hour with temps in upper 20s with highs of upper 30s. Snow received this weekend. Next weekend, average temps of mid 50s, but again, winds of 24 miles an hour are great. Had snow. Next, third weekend, cool temps with average of 36 and gusts of 36 miles an hour. Fourth weekend, cool down on weekend after warm week. Average upper 30s, low winds, so it was fishable. That pretty much says it right there. Would you want to go camping on those weekends? I wouldn't. The weekdays were really nice in April. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But the weekends were not nice. So I'm really happy to see the first 2 weeks of May. We've had great weather. This weekend coming up is great. The last weekend was great. Campers are coming out. So, the gains we had saw in January, February, and March, we lost a little bit in April here. But keep in mind, if you look at the year-to-date report, those total units, 7,605 year-to-date for the first 4 months. We do that in one weekend in the summer. So these are smaller numbers. So I don't get too excited about it, but it's always a barometer when you see good numbers coming in. And I think there's some really good anticipation out there for our camping this year. We're very hopeful for that. As Amy brought out, that is going to be one of our focus target areas is getting our camping numbers up, and we do that through marketing. Looking at that April year-to-date week report, the first 3 months out of the year so far were really good. We had good numbers going into April, and then April kind of tanked on us a little bit. So we're going to hit the marketing pretty hard with our data now. We think the weather is going to be great. I think we can easily make this up. Director Kirschman mentioned this yesterday. I'm going to be a little more specific, and I'm going to give some fishing tips. The fishing at Snake Creek has taken off, and the fishing at West Bend has taken off. And I am headed to West Bend on Wednesday with a crew of guys, and I plan to spend a few days there catching a lot of fish. So hopefully Director Kirschman will help me out with that. Fishing is good, and it's starting to heat up. I think we're kind of post-spawn or moving into that right now, and in May, particularly with a lot of our parks on the river, fishing is what drives that. So, and I know some of you are fishermen, right, Commissioner Teal? And it's time to get out there and go fishing. So, anyway, we're only down 346 units again. I'm not panicking, but really looking forward to some nice weather in the month of May. One other thing I will note that one of my regional supervisors shared with me, actually it was Matt at Custer, the amount of cancellations that they were experiencing in the month of April, where people had previously made reservations, but then they looked at the weekend forecast and they were canceling them, and some pretty large cancellation numbers. And, I can't blame people for that. I wouldn't want to camp in 36-mile-an-hour winds either. So we have looked ahead at our weekends. We feel like, for the most part, we're kind of on track with where we were last year. We have some weekends like Memorial Day where we're actually exceeding those numbers. Father's Day, we're exceeding those numbers from last year. We have some others that we certainly have some room to grow, and we'll be focused on those. So let's look at the revenue. The revenue in April kind of followed the camping units. We were down with our daily or our annual license sales, but really broke even with our daily license sales, which is kind of a surprise to me. Maybe the pleasant surprise there was that Custer State Park, in spite of the weather, still exceeded what we did last year, which is very impressive in my mind. So again, with good weather, hopefully we can turn this around. The camping services, those are advanced reservations. Again, we're lagging a little bit behind last year, but I think this is also a change with our visitors and society a little bit. People are not as apt to commit as far out anymore. They seem to kind of wait till a little closer when they want to do things, and that's a challenge to us. So how do we get in front of those people? How do we market to those people in those last 2 weeks? We see all kinds of cancellations and people picking up sites, and it's crazy, and that's something we've never had to deal with in the past. So that's something we really have to clue in, and that's where that social media really comes into play. Overall, we're down about $200,000 for the month of April. Looking at the year-to-date report for the month of for April, January through April, again, our annual license sales are up 7%. That's a great sign, and that's 7% on top of a great year last year. The trend continues with the double and both the resident double and non-resident double license sales, where they're increasing over last year, which is fantastic. Again, we're down a little bit with our Custer State Park 7-day passes, but when you think about the wind, the fire event, and then road construction, I'm still impressed we're as close as we are. So again, not panicking right now. Overall, our license sales are up 5% on top of a great year last year, so we're feeling really good about that. Camping, again, that's an area of focus for us. We're down on our advanced reservations, but we're working on that. Overall, just slightly below where we were at last year, about $150,000 down. We feel very confident we can make that up. And then if you turn to the kind of the 3-year comparison, something new we are finally able to do for you folks. When you, a couple things I want to point out on here. When you look at the 2026 numbers, the annual and daily license sales so far, year to date in 2026, this is the highest number of license sales we've ever had recorded. So you could go back and look at 23, 24, and 25, and we're exceeding all 3 of those years, certainly above the 3-year average, showing a 12.6% increase. We're pleased with that. Again, I think people see value in our parks, and they support it. You don't have to just be a camper to use our parks. There's a lot of other activities you can take advantage of. Looking down at the camping units, I said this before, no need to panic. We're real close to where we've been in 24 and 25. We're above 6% above the 3-year average. So, but it is definitely an area of focus. And then our lodging as a whole, if you look down at the bottom there, we are up 11.7% with our lodging, and that's been an area of focus. The last several years, we've seen great strides in that. You can see by the numbers there. We still have capacity, so we're going to keep promoting those. Again, when I talk about modern lodging, I'm not talking about our camping cabins. I'm talking about lodging facilities that have indoor bathrooms, cooking facilities in them. Those are very appealing to the younger generations that like conveniences. Even some of us older folks that like conveniences. So anyway, and I wasn't speaking about any of you, just myself. So with that, I would open it up to any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Director Van Meteren. Any questions from the commission and/or comments? Sounds like you answered everything they would have asked, so thank you for that report.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one last thing. Josh, if you and your crew would like to stand up, and maybe you'd like to come up here. I just want to thank Josh and his whole staff here, and I'll let him introduce them and what they do here at the facility. But they've been great hosts. They always are great hosts. And once again, just thank you, my friend, for everything you've done for us and all the facilities you've let us use. Outstanding quality and service, and you're always on top of it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Madam Chair, last night you said some very nice things to us, to me, about our organization out here in Custer State Park. And I would really be remiss if I did not recognize the 4 individuals here, and this is just a few of them. We have a combined experience of over 50 years of park operations just with those 4. Ryan Flick, who's our Director of Operations, has been here for 11 years. Gina Isaacson, she's our Director of Catering, has been here for over 10 years. Gina Konechny, she is our Director of Sales and Marketing, has been here for 17 years. And then Epi, and I can never say your last name, Manzano, thank you. He's our executive chef that oversees all of the food and beverage operations within the park. He's been here for 5 years. So a dynamic team. Couldn't do it without them. Again, I appreciate all the compliments that all you guys have given me over the years, but it's really those guys that make this operation work. So thank you, and I just wanted to introduce these guys to you. So. safe travels back home, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Very good. And thank you again, Josh and your team. Outstanding service. And I know what we see here, everybody that comes to the park sees that same thing. So thank you. And with that, that does take us to the end of this month's meeting for everybody within GF&P that worked on presentations to ensure this commission had the details that they needed to make the best decisions for the people of South Dakota. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to this commission. We accomplished a lot the last day and a half. I appreciate your hard work, your conversation, and your dedication to this commission. Next month, we will be heading to Madison, and I believe we're going to be at Heartland Energy, possibly seeing our old friend Russ Olson there. Any final words from the department before we adjourn?
Go ahead, Kevin. Madam Chair, Scott Simpson, Deputy Secretary. Yeah, I know everybody wants to get on the road, so I'll be really brief. I know Kevin is always a little leery when I get to the microphone anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to the commissioners. This is always a long meeting. You know, we start things out on Wednesday night, and here we are Friday morning, so really appreciate your dedication to what we're trying to accomplish here. It gets to be a long haul sometimes, but I hope that you're enjoying yourselves, and if you can't enjoy yourself in this spot, I don't know what else we can offer you. But really do appreciate your contributions to this meeting. I know it's a big effort. I know Kevin always talks about Team GF&P, and this time of the year you can't help but be proud. Not that we aren't every year, but as we're heading into busy seasons in the park system, we had a chance to visit with the Custer State Park staff on Thursday morning. Just an awesome group of folks that are completely dedicated to what they do each and every day. And, you know, that just gives you optimism that we're going to get through another busy year, and it's going to be great. We're going to have another great year of service. You know, the optimism that comes with spring, whether you're a rancher or a farmer, you're planting something, you just got calves on the ground. We have that same thing within our organization, right? We got walleye spawned, we're flying for antelope, and we're seeing a few more antelope. We're running around the country, and we're seeing pheasants everywhere up and down the road. We think that we got a good plan in place to start to turn this deer herd around in some places. Yeah, we're really optimistic about where we're headed, but we really appreciate the contributions that you folks make to help us get there. So thank you. Thanks to all of our staff. Thanks to Team GF&P for putting together another great meeting, and we'll see you next month in Madison.
Very good. Thank you, Deputy Secretary. Commissioner Nyberg.
I'm waiting for you. Whoops, sorry. Madam Chair, I'm waiting for you to ask if there's any agenda items.
Yes, yes, thank you. Solicitation of agenda items. Do we have any commissioners that would like to suggest an item for next month or future commission meetings?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would. I would love to hear from Chief Conservation Officer. I think we all would love to hear from Sam Hellhouse about his operations, his recruiting. I would like to see that on the agenda if possible. Be good.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Any other items that a commissioner would like to bring up? Commissioner Bartling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure, maybe it's premature, but if there's a possibility of hearing how the predator bounty program, especially with the coyotes, are going. You know, I know there's a time frame and a dollar frame that's all attached to that, but I'm just wondering if we could just an idea how that's working, because I know we had talked about maybe reevaluating the time frame of when it should be implemented, et cetera, and just wondering if you, and maybe it's not the right time, maybe it's more for the next meeting, but just curious about that myself.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Any other suggestions from commissioners? Seeing none, we do need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn by Nyberg, seconded by Bartling. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? We are adjourned. you.